How does it propose that?
Well, in short, because I finished that like 4 years ago, 2003, 2004. That's kind of what got me started in doing all this years ago. When I was about 1980, I'm from Washington, D.C. I've always had an interest in politics for some reason since I was a kid. So I'm a systems analyst. I said to myself, well, what if the Congress came to me one day and said, AJ, you solve problems, go fix the drug problem. This is probably in the early 80s when cocaine was first coming up as a big problem. So I said, okay. So I just started out I gave myself that assignment. That's how this whole thing got started, right? So that's like 1980s, a couple years ago. So like any other design, I came up with, I put my thoughts down first, and then I just started talking to people just like this. I'd say, hey, I'm working on a program to solve the nation's drug problem. Would you mind listening to a couple ideas? Most of the time people said, sure. Very few people would say, no, nervous or whatever. And I found also that you can't really talk to people about certain things when there's 2 or 3 people around, even if they're all strangers. Maybe if they're all strangers, right? But I found one-on-one really worked. And it basically comes down to we need to legalize marijuana, completely legalize and decriminalize it. It needs to be turned into a domestic industry with small growers, so you have small farms, small business. All right.
I'm so with what he's saying, because I think it's totally practical. And I'm a farmer. I farm, citrus and some other things.
You could grow hemp.
It would be a great crop, and and you would eliminate all the drug trafficking and all the cartels and all of the crap. And then, hey, tax the hell out of it. We need a little bit of a tax base. People want to use it. And,
There's some clinics in California already that are paying the federal government hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes.
And I actually saw that on a special, and but what does the federal government want to do? They're trying to come down on those different states.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this is states' rights versus federal rights.
Now, I know. We're in a big battle over that too.
Right. Now, so anyway,
I'm sorry.
What I would do, what that's part of the situation. You've got to take care of that, because it's going to. We've been arresting drug users for decades now, which is just completely insane. If the government can't keep a drug out, then they can't kill us for, give us criminal records for using it. Now, to really get rid of the part of it is the pot, but then you have to deal with the hard drugs. So the easiest way to deal with the hard drug problem for a period of like 12 or 18 months, whatever it takes, is you legalize the possession of all drugs, okay? Then the police will only focus on identifying all the addicts, putting them into mandatory recovery programs. This isn't voluntary because it's costing us too damn much money. So you put them in enforced rehab, different levels, and that's written up in the book. There's different phases of it. You also take the addicts or anybody who really needs help with it. You say, we're going to reevaluate you on your education, get you up to at least a high school GED, some vocational training, social skills training, okay? So you basically are going to be retooling the person, all right, as they need to be to make them clean and employable, if they weren't already. If you got a stockbroker on Wall Street with a cocaine habit, he's an addict, then you need to clean him up. He doesn't need a job, but a lot of people do need jobs. So you kind of tie this into unemployment services and welfare services.
He's handling my stocks.
Huh?
You need a job if he's handling my stocks.
There he is. So anyway, see, I'm a believer in the death penalty, all right, to resolve certain issues that have just been allowed to run forever. So if somebody, so I was saying that the police would need to identify the users, the addicts, right? And then they would target the sources. They would just go after the sources, because what we're going to have to do is pick up the sources as they're coming in, because we're going to have to support those addicts for at least a month or so on their drug before we may have them go cold turkey, right? There's different ways of doing this, all right? So what's going to happen is people who continue to traffic will be given, I put in the book, 3 chances to be caught trafficking. on the third conviction, you get a shot in the arm and you're dead. That's where that originally came from. And people will vote for that. People say, oh yeah, that's right. Even liberals. When I got that by a bunch of liberals, hardcore liberals, they said, well, you gave the guy 3 chances. If he can't figure it out, he's costing us money. See, it comes back to money and employment. So, yeah, and the other way you do it is if the hard drugs come in on a plane from another country, we own the plane. If it comes in on a ship from another country, we own the ship.
They'd have to police themselves pretty well.
Huh?
So whoever's transporting it would have to police themselves pretty well.
Well, they already know it's on their ships already, so they're just letting it happen. So we're basically going to start taking over a whole lot of property, all right? But you know, you solve problems by changing things, all right, in a positive way. And all we're going to be doing in America is like that's what the Declaration of Civil Responsibility out there is really like a Declaration of Independence for us, all right?
Here's what I see as the problems. Getting people educated to the level that they need to be on a lot of the issues, because they're not getting it from television, they're not getting it from mainstream, and that's what they watch and that's what they see.
Right.
You know, okay, so 10%, 15%, you know, maybe getting somewhere and they're starting to understand things, but majority of people don't get it. And you know, I hate to say that, but it's the truth. Go down the street, ask a few questions, you figure it out real fast. And
You ever watch Jay Leno's jaywalking stuff?
yeah, I have.
I know
So-
what you mean. It's like some real nutcases out
And here's
there.
another issue with independents, okay? Any independent that goes out, it's associated with this group, you're in the same thing where right now it takes money to win elections. It's all about money. And these guys will beat you up. They will hire the best people against you, and they will slander you to death, you know, no matter what.
I'm ready for that. I wrote that. I reconciled that years ago. I just have finally gotten to the point where I want to do this.
There's more candidates too, like, you know, anyone that tries to run, you can see, just look at the scum stuff on television, and you know, half of it isn't even true. And
Well, one thought on the whole thing with the party, and I haven't come up with a name yet, is if we can get the thing rolling, and I think there's enough meat here to do it, we could field a candidate in 2012, right? Because Obama doesn't get his act together pretty soon. He'll be, you know, up for grabs, all right? And in the party, I might be that candidate, presidential candidate, and I would have a white female professional legislator as the running mate. So that's, you know, getting started right there. And so for them, the parties or anybody to come and attack me, right, as I get this thing going, which is what I want them to do, is exactly what I want them to do. I want them to come after me because I'm going to go down to these different programs. Like, who are the 2 biggest lobbies against marijuana legalization?
tell me, I don't know.
Who do you think?
I could probably give it an educated guess.
Just take a wild guess.
I don't know. Law enforcement. I have no idea.
You're farther down the list. No, number 2 is the alcohol industry,
Okay.
because they will suffer some losses. If people can get buzzed, they're not going to drink as much booze. That's probably what's going to happen.
I think that's probably true, and I know people that smoke pot and people that drink, then booze is a much worse drug. I mean, there's no question about it.
Like Napoleon actually brought pot back from the wars.
Did he really?
Because the Turkish, over in Turkey,
Yeah.
because his troops were used to drinking brandy and waking up with a hangover in the morning. They started smoking pot, they got relaxed, and they didn't have a hangover. So he brought it back to Europe. Eventually it made its way to the Queen of England and across over into New York. Thomas Jefferson smuggled the first hemp plants into the country, right? And he and George Washington grew it because they could make paper out of it, they could make heating oil out of it, lamp oil,
Rope,
rope.
whatever.
Yeah. The Constitution was written on hemp paper.
Was it really? Come on.
And you can't get a buzz off hemp, right? And you know, as a farmer, you don't want to. The number 1 lobby against pot legalization is the pharmaceutical industry, because they will really take it shorts. once that stuff gets
That
legal.
makes sense.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
making
Oh.
real sense to me.
Title of the book?
The title of the book is The Second Coming of Common Sense, 700 pages. You can find that on the internet, posted for free, broken up into 44 little excerpts on the site commonsense2009.typepad.com. You can also order it for home delivery.
Thank you, A J Wildman. Thank you, Michael Boatwright. You guys shake hands. Can you shake hands?
Oh, yeah.
All right, great. Thanks a lot.